Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. I did a video yesterday about Eddie Hearn and DAZN and how DAZN were making employees redundant in Britain, and they were moving their concentrated interests to India and Europe. The British UK gig wasn't turning out as Hearn had probably promised them. And there is clearly, massive hemorrhaging of money from DAZN. That's kind of a given. Huge further injections of money, but at some point they're going to have to start making money, of course. And one of my subscribers left a message in the comments saying, what do you think would happen if Eddie Hearn's DAZN gig ended? I can't see DAZN ever going bust. They've already lost a couple of billion, I think it is, over the years, but in this particular area of their investment. But what would happen to Hearn? Would they get rid of Hearn? Would they, not renew his contract? If so, what would happen with Eddie? Well, let me start by saying I think Eddie Hearn, regardless of what you think of him as a person, and I've never met him, I'm not likely to meet him, but he is an extremely talented promoter, given the right funds and given the right platform. And let's not make any mistake about it. DAZN, as a fledgling platform, a fledgling broadcaster, is not an easy gig to excel in. Eddie came to DAZN from Sky with, the golden child. I think he fell in love with his own image. He believed that he was the reason for the whole success with Sky. He forgot that you need a very good platform to promote fights. A broadcaster that has, several decades in the business, knows how to do these things. He thought that it was mostly him and Matchroom that had done it, primarily him, and he was in for a rude awakening. Now, the thing about Eddie is that he's from a very privileged background. He's a multi-millionaire's son. And while he has displayed a lot of talent in boxing promotion and a tremendous work ethic, it doesn't necessarily follow that he's got, in boxing terms, a good engine or a good chin. Because we can only discover someone's real psychology, personality, the person that they are, rather than the mask they wear in public, when their back is against the wall, or, to use another boxing analogy, on the ropes. And Eddie is clearly under pressure at DAZN. The Conor Benn, Chris Eubank Jr. farce, which continues to gather further layers. It's like an onion. You peel one layer off and there's another layer underneath, and and this is a big fat onion, believe me. That's really put him bad. This is by far the worst year for Eddie Hearn and Matchroom and DAZN's UK branch, without a shadow of doubt. It really is. So when that happens, usually, and this is a generalization, of course, to make a point sometimes you've got to generalize, but usually those who come from tough, rugged backgrounds, when their backs are against the ropes, they fight back, and they keep fighting back. And even though they're bloodied and, smashed up and want to quit, they won't quit. They won't. Not always the case, but if you come from nothing, you know what nothing is. You know what it's like to have nothing. And yes, sometimes the fear of going back there can overwhelm you, but at the same time, it can also motivate you. Now, if you come from a privileged background where you're never going to starve, you're never going to be homeless, and also if you're currently a multi-millionaire, which Eddie Hearn most certainly is, let's go back to what Marvin Hagler said. It's very difficult to get up in the morning when you're wearing silk pajamas. There's got to be some sort of inner steel, some sort of inner desire to actually get up and continue training, fighting, picking up the punishment, mental as well as physically, and putting that wear and tear on your body and your mind as well. Your mind is important. Healthy body breeds a healthy mind, but likewise, healthy mind can breed a healthy body. So it is a feasible, very reasonable assumption that Eddie Hearn, if the DAZN thing went bosoms northwards, he would say, enough's enough, I'm off, I'm out of here. Don't like the business. He said many times before, this is a stinking business, I hate it. I don't think it's a given, though. I don't think I wouldn't say that would definitely happen, and here's why. Because we need to recognise that Eddie Hearn has a massive ego. A massive ego. I have never ever bought into this, pitter-patter Essex wide boy routine that he does. Lots of banter, and that's not to say he's all bad. He may have a very pleasant, a very decent, a very moral side. Most people have a yin and a yang. So only psychopaths that don't. But I don't have Eddie down as a psychopath. But his ego is definitely rampant. It's a big part of his motivation, of his work ethic, and so on. So maybe that would stop him from quitting, even though his inner voice would say, "Come on, you don't need this." His ego might say, "Yeah, you do. You're not gonna let people laugh at you, are you? You're not gonna go out. You're not gonna end like this." Like a fighter, a great fighter who's been chinned a couple of times. I can't end it like this. So you may well carry on. In which case, he'd have to find another platform, another broadcaster, and he would. He would find another broadcaster, but it would be a step down from the "we're going to rule the world" model that Eddie went into DAZN with. It would be a massive step down, and that would bug him, again, for egotistical reasons. So could he, for example, I don't know, just off the top of my head, get a Channel 5 deal and he probably put some great shows on, like Mick Hennessy used to. Mick Hennessy, everyone sort of chuckles at Mick Hennessy because he's not very charismatic on screen, and B, he's sort of like the runt of the litter when it comes to promoters, like TV broadcasting promoters. But he put some tremendous Channel 5 shows on. And Eddie could probably do the same. But the point is, his stock, his image, the whole thing that made him want to be the big boxing promoter star will have gone. And can his ego take that? So on the one side, he's thinking, I've got to carry on because I can't end it like this. But on the other side, he'd have to step down the ladder a few rungs and be in a broadcasting situation where he perhaps didn't want to be. Suddenly he's not the one calling the shots. He's not the one with two, the DAZN and the Sky deals on the table and his sport for choice. Suddenly he's having to take what he's offered. And I think that would be a big, big problem to him. So I think, and I don't think this is particularly revelatory, I'm sure a lot of you will agree with this, but I think Eddie will stick with DAZN, no doubt about that. He will continue in the hope that things do eventually pan out. To be honest, the way they're going, they're going to have to pan out sooner rather than later. I think DAZN, this is just my theory, I don't have any inside information, but I think that with losing money hand over fist, which DAZN have been doing, they would probably have said to Eddie, look, you've got to pick this up a bit. But it would never have crossed their mind, well, we'll get rid of him because they've come this far. It's kind of like swimming the channel. What is it, 26 miles, is it, to swim the channel, I think? So let's say you do 20 miles and you're knackered. You don't turn around and swim back. So it's 20 miles. You carry on to the 6 miles to the end because obviously, you've come this far. You might as well finish. I think DAZN would have said to Eddie, all right, you carry on, mate. You carry on. But you better start making money. And probably they'd take him. Is it a 5-year deal he's got? They'd probably take him to the end of his 5 years and then they'd make a decision then. But I think with this Conor Benn, Chris Eubank Jr. situation, with all the mealy-mouthed contradictions and, Ben has now failed 2 PED tests, and when did they know about it, and did Hearn notify the right people, and he should have pulled the fight sooner, and blah blah blah, all this stuff. All right, all this stuff. I think this is a tremendously bad look for DAZN, and I would guess that behind the scenes they are very, very unamused about this situation, and they're going to have, if they haven't already, have some very stiff words with Eddie Hearn because it's been handled appallingly. It's not just Matchroom and Hearn's reputation that's taken a wallop, it's DAZN's as well. And the one thing you don't want is a bad reputation, or even a hint of it, when you're trying to build something. Look at all the, an example I would use, this is just an example, right, off the top of my head. Dacia cars, that Romanian maker cars, they were offering really high quality cars for really, really cheap prices, and everyone was saying, bloody hell, this is a bargain, what a great car. Really, it's a very basic car, but they're buying them new, and they're like 8 grand new, I think they were, even less, 7 grand new. And now, 5 years later, is it, suddenly the prices have gone up because they invested, they accumulated, what is it now, invest to accumulate or something like that. There's a phrase that they use in the corporate world. I'm not of the corporate world, thank God. But so DAZN will, and any fledgling company will want to do that. They want to have a spotless, they want to have an excellent product at cheap prices and a spotless reputation. And for things like the Ben Eubank scandal, which only is a scandal, to happen, I think that will affect the executives a great deal. They will not be amused by that. But anyway, that's my spiel for today. Let me know what you think. Leave your comments below. Thank you as always for subscribing and for listening to my little spiel. If you're new to the channel, you could subscribe. That'd be fantastic. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Much love to you, and we'll speak again soon. Bye bye for now.